Hey everybody, Parker J here for another after show with you. I am so excited to be talking to my guest co-host and contributor today, Michelle Keener. She is the author of the book that you see right to the left or right of me called Made in Hollywood. We just finished our show on the podcast. You are definitely want to go back and listen to that because we had such a great time talking about it. I love her stories. Her stories are just so wonderfully and richly detailed, and I know you're going to enjoy them too. So make sure you visit her website in the crawler below. Make sure you visit her website there and also follow her on her social media outlets. And without further ado, I'm going to bring her on board. Michelle, how are you doing today?
Hey, Parker. I'm doing really well. I'm doing better because I get to hang out with you.
I am doing better because I get to hang out with you as well. We have such a good time when we get together, especially even after the broadcast. Me and you can talk for probably 2 or 3 hours, just having a great
Oh,
time.
easy.
We could talk about any and everything under the sun. But I definitely want people to know more about Made in Hollywood. Let them know about that because Made in Hollywood is such a good book. It's clean and wholesome, but still gritty. It still has that romantic feel to it without having it overly sweet. There's a lot of good things going on Made in Hollywood. So let me just ask you some practical questions because I'm always trying to encourage the authors out there to make sure, your process may help them finish their book. So tell us, how long did it take for you to finish Made in Hollywood?
Oh, good question. So, Made in Hollywood actually started out as a project for NaNoWriMo, National Novel Writing Month. So, the first draft took 30 days, and it took all 30 of those 30 days, but it finished the first draft in 30 days. And then after that, it was probably another maybe 6 months of revisions and edits. And when I started writing Made in Hollywood, it was already under contract with my publisher. So it moved a little quicker, I think, than usual because looming scary deadlines
Right,
and
right.
things like that tend to make you move quicker. So start to finish, probably 8, 9 months would be
Okay.
my estimate. It's all kind of a blur, so I'm not entirely sure because I was also getting ready to release Mission Hollywood.
Mhm.
So yeah, it's all kind of a caffeine induced blur. But I'm going to go with 9 months because, pregnancy books, it works. 9 months.
Yeah,
How
one
about
way
that?
or the other.
Yeah,
Something's going to come out. Something's gonna And also, definitely want to thank Ambassador International for connecting us. Ambassador International, I think they're really growing their catalog in a very unique way by bringing on more compelling fiction, particularly like fiction like yours, which is hard hitting without being too graphic, and other fiction as well. I've worked with several of their authors. So, Ambassador International, once again, thank you so much for the connection. The other thing I have to tell you is that Noah is a dream, and everyone has their dream book boyfriend that they have. Right now, my celebrity crush, if he ever sees this, I wonder if he'll come get me coffee. My celebrity crush is Michael B. Jordan, and some of you may know him as a Killmonger in the Panther movie, but you may also know him from the Creed movies too.
Mhm.
And if he ever sees me, Mr. Jordan, I would love to have coffee with you. I doubt this will get to him, but we can always dream. So anyway, but when we have these characters, we do kind of fall in love with them. We fall in love with our book boyfriends, and that's what we like about them. So, what makes Noah so likable to you?
I think Noah, he's just so fun, right? And he's so filled with God. He kind of exudes peace, even when he's confused and stuff.
Right.
He's just like, and he's really funny. I mean, that's what I loved about him from Mission Hollywood when he was really the guy who was kind of teasing Ben the whole time and, blackmailing him into helping at the church and stuff. That he just has this great humor that it comes from a good place. It's not like sarcastic, biting humor, which I really don't like. And so it just comes from this really good heart. And I think that and his just genuine love for God. I mean, because let's be honest, when a man really, really loves the Lord, I mean, that's kind of sexy, right? Like, can I
It
say that?
really is.
Is that okay?
You could say sexy with me. You could say
So,
a whole lot of stuff with me. So,
my daughter just turned 18, and so we've kind of started talking about like, hey, eventually you meet the man the Lord's set aside to be your husband, and that's one of the things we talk about. It's like if he loves the Lord, he's going to be so handsome, and so I think that's one of the things that I love about Noah. And plus, he's just kind of squishy and sweet and thoughtful. So It's
I
cool.
like the fact that in this book you took the parable of the prodigal son and put it with a young girl. Why was that a significant part of your writing process?
Well, I didn't intend, like, I didn't start out with, oh, this is going to be a prodigal son retelling and let me space it all out. It was about halfway through the first draft that I started seeing elements of the parable in it. And by that time, I knew where I was going. I knew what the end was going to be. Um, no spoilers. But by the time I got to the end, I was like, oh, well, this is definitely a prodigal son retelling,
Mhm.
except with a prodigal daughter. And once I identified it, I loved that idea so much that then in the revisions, I went back and started looking for a lot more specific places to really draw out the parallels and really highlight that connection. One, because I thought it was really effective just in terms of craft and writing. I thought it was a really effective parallel, but also because I just love that parable. I mean, talk about God's grace and the whole idea of redemption and that nobody is so far that God can't reach them. That's awesome. So that's kind of how that worked its way into the book.
My next question deals with some of your other projects. I know that there's a third book involved in the Red Carpet series. Before we talk about the third book, go ahead and briefly just give us a snippet of what the first book, Mission Hollywood, is about and how they are connected all together. I know you have Mission Hollywood, Made in Hollywood. Who knows what the third one's called? So
I
tell
know
us
what it's
how
called.
they're all connected.
So it all started with Mission Hollywood, and that started with an idea of I knew I wanted to write a Christian romance because I love reading them, so I wanted to write them. And it started with this idea of what would happen if, which is a great way to start writing. What would happen if a movie star who doesn't believe in God meets a pastor's daughter, and how would that unfold? Like, what would that happen? So that's where Mission Hollywood started, was this simple story between a movie star who really basically hated God, had been running from God, who meets a pastor's daughter who loves the Lord, and what happens when their worlds collide. And through the process of writing it, and we got to know Lily's family. Well, Lily's brother is Noah. And Parker and I were talking about this on the podcast, that I just fell in love with Noah. It was like, well, now my standalone book is a series because Noah needs a woman and I want Noah to live happily ever after. So there's going to be a book two. And so then we end up with book two. And through, again, this world building and meeting all these characters, we meet Lily's best friend, Kate. And now I have this other unresolved character. Well, Kate needs a book. So she's going to get book three, which would you like a bit of a scoop, Parker? Should I tell you? Would you like
Of
a scoop?
course I want. Of
So
course I want to.
right now, and this is breaking news, nobody else knows this. Right now, the title for book three is Farewell to Hollywood.
Oh,
Oh,
okay.
okay.
Okay. That is an off-air conversation we will
Yes,
have.
ma'am. Okay. Yes, ma'am. So, but that one is, I'd show you over there in my office. It's sitting in a big pile of papers on my desk right now because I'm finishing up the revisions on that one. Again, in a deadline induced panic, fueled by Jesus and caffeine.
I like that. Jesus and caffeine. Now you're a coffee drinker, aren't you?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. By the way, real women drink tea. FYI. No, no, I'm joking because I love tea. I don't do coffee, but anyway. But I like the
I
fact
do
that you got.
also drink tea. I like peppermint tea. That's my favorite.
Okay, seriously,
Yeah.
Michelle, I love peppermint tea. That is my favorite tea.
So you and me right
Seriously.
here. Right
Okay,
there.
sister from another mister. Sister from
Okay.
another mister for
I love
sure.
it.
But I'm excited to let our viewers know about what you do, about your book. I can't wait to your third book. Make sure you contact me so I can have you on the show. And before we go, just a couple of more words about, writing about taboo subjects in Christian fiction, because that was something we really expanded on in the podcast. And for those of you watching, make sure you go ahead and click on that link to hear the podcast again, because Michelle really got deep down and dwelt on that because it's a very important topic. A lot of people think Christian fiction should be this pure talk about I don't know what, but I don't know what, but I feel like if you want that type of fiction, don't read the Bible, and that's not fiction at all. So I'm sitting here like, okay, how do we talk about taboo subjects in Christian fiction without it being so knee jerk repulsive to some
Mm.
people?
That's a good topic, and I don't think there's an easy answer for it. I mean, we were talking on the podcast about that. My books, they don't have swear words, they don't have graphic violence, they are pretty much as clean can get, but still dealing with heavy topics. And yet, I still got a couple. I don't want to say a lot. I got a couple of emails from people who were actually quite scandalized that I talked about an exotic dancer in my book. You can't do that in Christian fiction. And I was told point blank, you can't talk about this in Christian fiction. And not by my publisher, who's incredibly supportive the whole time, but by readers who were saying, no, this is not okay. You can't do this, and shame on you. Um, but honestly, if we can't talk about it in the church, if we can't talk about these hard issues as Christians, who else is going to do it? Who else is going to reach out to people who are hurting and share the love of the gospel with them? If we can't talk about it in church, then where's the hope? Truthfully, I mean, if the church can't have these conversations, then nobody can, really. And nobody can bring that healing love of God if the church is not willing to do it. So I think it's incredibly important to figure out how we can write in a way that honors God and still confronts some really evil and dark topics, that we're in the world, but not of it, right? So we can go
Exactly.
into these dark spaces and not be part of the darkness. We bring the light into it, right?
Right. And for those of you, guys, that I support edgy Christian fiction. I was telling Michelle that too. But some people don't want to write too edgy, but they still want to tackle it. And Michelle does that in a very effective way. And when you were saying, if we don't talk about it in church, where else are we going to talk about it? I mean, there are people right now in church dealing with, backlash from bad
Mhm.
choices right now in church. Like today, that we may be socially distanced by 6 or 8 feet or whatever it is, wearing our mask, which hides our faces, but we're still dealing with that. And I love how you said, we don't talk about it in church. Where do we talk about it at? Do we just, sweep it under the rug? And next thing you know, that's why you wonder why someone loses their mind or does some atrocious act because they were not able to express that. And that's one thing I loved about your red carpet series, that you're getting to the heart of this glittering globe of Hollywood, but showing the dark side of it. And I just really enjoy it. Cannot wait to the next contribution to the series, which is Farewell to Hollywood, which I am dying to know what that's about. I'm dying to know what that's about. But Michelle, thank you. Thank you for joining me for this after show. Very excited to have had you, and I can't wait to have you back on the show soon, okay?
Thank you so much, Parker. You are the best.
And we were talking today to Michelle Keener. She's with me for the after show. You definitely got to get her book, Made in Hollywood. It's available on Amazon.com. We want to also thank Ambassador International for the connection. We really have been enjoying interviewing their authors, as they have great books and great dialogue. Not dialogue, great contribution to the catalog, I should say. So definitely, if you want to know more about Ambassador International, go to their website at ambassador-international .com. You definitely want to go there. And as always, prayerfully consider supporting this ministry. You can do that by going to patreon.com/right stuff, become a quill member for $3 a month if the Lord leads you. If you can't do that, we covet your prayers. Thank you guys so much for being with me for this edition of the Right Stuff After Show. You have a wonderful, absolutely glorious, blessed day, and God bless.